Okay, here it is, bonus episode on October 29th. It's actually going to be 3 bonus episodes. It is a celebration of all things Mr. Bungle. It is a Mr. Bungle series. And I came up with the idea about 2 weeks ago before I knew I was going to interview AC/DC and then Rob Halford back to back. I thought, hey man, let's do a full celebration of Mr. Bungle. Get the band members on. Let's talk about how they got back together. Let's talk about the new band members, meaning Scott Ian and Dave Lombardo. And let's talk a little bit about the history of Mr. Bungle. And I thought, what better way to do it than each day drop an episode before their new record comes out on Friday, which is October, what is that? The 30th. Their new record will be out, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, which is a re-recording and realized in many ways, super edition, I would say, of their 1986 thrash metal demo. Back then, we had the great Trevor and Trey and, of course, Mike Patton living up north, NorCal. Something in the water up there, man. I'm from there, and there is something in the water that creates some incredible thrash metal. I mean, they've got to do a study. What is in the water? Whatever it is, it makes your right hand go very fast, and it makes your music very aggressive. And like I talked to my guest today, Mr. Scott Ian, one of my good friends and a fantastic podcast guest. We've become friends over the years, our bonding of AC/DC, of course, and our bonding of guitars and music. So it was great to have him on to start this Bungle celebration. It's wild because I was talking to Scott about it. I am from Northern California, and my first real taste of a Mr. Bungle addiction was a demo that was in 1989 called OU818. And of course, I did hear a few songs off The Raging Wrath years before that, but it was nothing that I had. I didn't have this infamous demo. I did have OU818, and so did my good friend Steve Goodrich, and man, did we play the shit out of that. It's funny to think about, if I look at that time period, my music palette is all over the board. It's Mr. Bungle. It's Appetite for Destruction. It's Metallica. It's Prince, Sign of the Times. It's all, I mean, those late 80s, there was all kinds of great music going on. Jane's Addiction. But this demo, OU818, really stuck with me and my buddy Goodrich. Great friend, longtime friend. And we fell in love with Mike Patton, but we also loved the playing of Trey and Trevor. And we would go see the band. And of course, we all know the history that Mike Patton joins Faith No More. It absolutely explodes, putting out those 2 huge records. Well, Epic is huge, and Angel Dust is huge to me. Epic is huge to the world. But Angel Dust being deep in my heart as one of the Bay Area masterpieces. But once he's in Faith No More, he gets a record deal and fires up the old band, which thank God he did, and puts out the Mr. Bungle debut in 1991 on Warner Brothers, Disco Volante, 95, 99 is California. plenty of great bungle out there. All kinds of craziness, but none of it sounded like that 86 demo. And now, on Friday, we are going to get a metal masterpiece, a thrash metal smoker, something we need right now in 2020. Some kind of fierce aggression. When I first announced that I was going to do the Mr. Bungle series, everybody was like, oh man, did you get Mike Patton? Did you get Mike Patton? Of course I didn't get Mike Patton. You know? But it doesn't matter. You know the history of this show. I love to have the people that I feel are just as important to a band as the main guy in people's eyes. Whoever the front man is, whoever the lead player is, that's the main guy. I always like to have the other guys. Sure, I'd love to have Mike Patton on. Millions of questions for him. But I also love talking to Trey and Trevor. And I also love talking to Scott about what this band means to him. And, of course, Dave Lombardo is back there crushing it on drums. And I've said it over and over and over. He is the all-time greatest thrash metal drummer of all time. I couldn't imagine being in a band and Dave Lombardo would be our drummer. And that's a dream come true for the Bungle guys, because back when they were in high school, listening to Slayer and Metallica and having their metal dreams after school, rehearsing, playing fucking weird keg parties and shit like that up in the Emerald Triangle. It has to blow their mind as they're in the recording studio tracking and looking out of the window, and there's Dave Lombardo and Scotty and two guys from the Big Four. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this. If you don't know who Mr. Bungle is, immediately dive into it. There's so many different eclectic vibes going on with this group, and it was one of the bands that really expanded my mind and taught me, oh man, songwriting can be way different than, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, solo, all that standard writing of rock and roll, sort of say. Okay, here we go. So today will be Scotty in, and then we will have Trey on, and then we will have Trevor. And then you pick up their record on Friday, and then Saturday, watch their pay-per-view concert for Halloween. Throw on your mask, get your Fred Flintstone outfit on, and call up some friends, fire up your 100-inch ridiculous TV too big for your apartment, turn up the surround sound, disturb your neighbors, and get into it. Mr. Bungle. Let's go right now with Scotty in. The candles are lit. Enjoy this. So here we are talking Bungle. It's so amazing to think about this project. I listen to the record over and over. And I grew up in the Bungle world, and I was talking to the other guys about it. I remember hearing the first demo, one or two songs, but it wasn't like really rampant in the metal community as far as around me or anybody. The one that was real fire was OU818. Now that thing was everywhere, parties, cars, anything you were in, but the first one, I just don't really remember it that well, but the guys told me that you actually owned it. Do you remember when you got that?
It would have been sometime in 86 or early 87, I'm thinking, because I was still tape trading at that point. I'm trying, it's hard for me to remember exactly when. I moved out of my mom's apartment at some point in 86, and I got my own tiny little apartment in Forest Hills, Queens. So I feel like it would have been before that, because when I was still living at home, my mom's, that's where I was tape trading, and people had that address and they would send stuff to my mom's house. Although I might have gotten there after I moved out at some point, but it would be hard for me to pin down specifically when, because it also, it didn't make a huge impact on my life. Like it was one of those things like where someone had sent it to me and it was, like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
And it already sounded pretty terrible, even if you would have had a first edition copy of it. Let alone something, so many generations down on cassette. And I remember hearing it, and the thing I do remember about it, I think my takeaway from it was that, okay, it's fucking like brutal, noisy insanity. And whoever these guys are, they don't take themselves too seriously. They obviously have a good sense of humor, and that definitely attracted me to it. And I definitely was familiar with what I thought was just noise, kind of for noise sake's music, because me and Charlie, well, I should back that up. Danny Lilker did this thing called the Crab Society with some guy. They were NYC Mayhem, and then they became Straight Ahead. And it was with like Craig Satari, who ended up in Agnostic Front and Sick of It All. And so Danny and Craig and this guy, Tommy Carroll, who was the singer of NYC Mayhem and Straight Ahead, they did this Crab Society thing. And it was just super short songs, super noisy, super brutal. And then the night before we recorded SOD, so it would have been July 1st, 1985, actually, we made what we called the Crab Society North demo, because we were up in Ithaca, New York, so we were up north of the city. And it was 59 songs. It was 10 minutes long, and it was just noise. Every song made up on the spot. And 59 songs in 10 minutes. Some of those songs ended up like becoming what you hear on the SOD record, like those really short songs. And so when I heard that Bungle thing, let's say a year and a half later, I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Crab Society, kind of just much longer songs. But it had the same sound as the Crab Society. You just couldn't make shit out, and the vocals were crazy. And so I was definitely attracted to it. And then, yeah, OU 818 certainly put Bungle on the map for me. And then, of course, when Mike joins Faith No More and you find out, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
That guy for Mr. Bungle is the guy singing Epic.
Yeah.
What? So then it all started to come together. And then, of course, the first Bungle record, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, since I haven't heard it in a gazillion years, I mean, are the vocals changed much from what he was doing on that demo?
Yeah, it's definitely more. I mean, you could go on YouTube.
Oh, it's out there.
And hear it. It's funny, when Mike first contacted me about being a part of this, and I was like, dude, I'll never be able to find that tape to learn the songs. Like, it's buried in storage somewhere. And he's like, oh, you could just go on YouTube. It's all up on YouTube. So, of course, I immediately went on YouTube to start listening. And I was like, how the fuck am I going to figure these songs out? From the quality was even worse than the quality of the tape I had. Like, I was like, I'm never going to be able to learn these riffs. And I wrote him back. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to figure this shit out? And he said, oh, don't worry. Trevor and Trey they're gonna make new demos, because we don't even know what the fuck we were doing. We need to figure it out. So they're gonna make demos, and you'll be able to learn from that. I was like, oh, thank you. But yeah, I think, yeah, first of all, just the quality of the recording of the vocals are much different. I mean, a lot of that stuff, if you go listen to it, it sounds like he's singing through, like he had 7 pairs of socks over the microphone, and it's just who the fuck, it's a fucking mess, but in a good way. And this sounds much more like a thrash metal record to me, to my ear now. This sounds like what, if this record would have come out in 1986, Mike would have been known as one of the most insane, best thrash metal singers of all time. And it's funny that people don't think of Mr. Bungle as being a thrash metal band, but that's what they were. They were a thrash and death metal band, crossover, whatever you want to call it. All of that stuff involved, 85, 86, when they were writing that stuff. That's what they were. That's how they started. Granted, their arrangements were on another planet, but musically and riff wise, that's who they were.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. They were saying even on the OU 818, which is true, there's this total metal thrash in and out flavors of it, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. Even once you get into the records, um, even on the second album on Disco Volante, how you pronounce it, even on that, you'll always find the random thrash part thrown in.
Yeah. It's so amazing. When I first heard about that this was going to go down, I was so fired up, you know, because it was such a long time ago and a big part of my past, man. Me and my buddy Steve Goodrich, who works at Dunlap now, we would cruise in his Toyota Celica and listen to OU 818 every day, just every day, and then into SOD, and then into Among the Living, and then Master of Puppets. That was kind of like our theme in this Celica, always. And then for some reason we would rock some Eric Martin band. We were just like,
as you do.
Yeah, let's just chill out a little bit, you know. But I was really fired up about this, and you know, to go to the shows at the Fonda, it was those shows were incredible, actually.
Yeah, I think, it's a lot to ask an audience to come to a show and other than some of the covers we did, come to a show and pretty much hear music you've never heard before. And we're going to not make it easy for you. It's going to be really, really brutal, intense, long thrash songs with some covers thrown in that you may or may not know. I think that's a big ask for an audience, but a Bungle audience is already obviously going to be open-minded about music. You have to be. And yes, I'm sure there probably were some Bungle fans thinking, well, I wish they were playing the avant-garde stuff or they were playing the hits, off some of the Bungle records. But what's more Mr. Bungle than challenging your musical sensibilities? And we also to quote something that Trey said in an interview we did together, he's like, we're giving them a version of this that just in a million years wouldn't have seemed possible to them back in 1986. This to them was having me and Dave in the band was like, that would have been their dream band, to have for this. So we were presenting this stuff with a really, really tight band. Like we had our shit together. So we were really giving them, the best possible version of this thrash metal that they wrote in 1986. And it's seemingly people really enjoyed it. Like I gotta say, people weren't standing there going like, what the fuck is this? People got to see something really special and I think understood that and really, really got into it.
No, man, that audience was unusually wild and on fire for an LA crowd. LA crowds usually kind of like, oh yeah, right. I'm as good as them, And
right.
That fucking audience was on it, man. I was like, this is old school. I'm digging this, Yeah,
I wish you would have seen the Warfield shows.
Oh.
The second Warfield show was crazy. Like, I don't know if it was a lot of repeat business. So people had seen the first show and they were a little more familiar with what was going to happen. So they came back for the second show and they were able to just really let loose. And obviously being the hometown show too. Yeah, it was, for me, the second Warfield was the best. And they were all great, they were all good. We got better, of course, as the shows went on. So also for me, that second Warfield being the last of the 7 gigs, um, I just felt like we were really, as you know, we were really in a good place as a band because we had all those shows under our belts, and then also the audience. You know, you had 3,500 people packed in that place, really ready to go for it. So it was super exciting. Look, it's so weird for me because everything about this, it's like I come at it from a fan's point of view first because I'm such a fucking Mr. Bungle fan. And so like if I wasn't in the band, I would have been at those shows. I probably would have flown up to San Francisco. I may have even gone to New York, like just to see it because fuck, when is this? It may never happen again. You know, who knows? So everything we do, it's like I see it through a fan filter, and uh, um, and it's super exciting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and then I get to be with the guys, and I also happen to be a guy on stage playing the songs, which of course just is a complete mind fuck for me. So yeah, everything about it is just so fucking cool, and getting to experience this with other Mr. Bungle fans and the excitement of people getting to hear this record, the idea, you know, that people are digging what has come out so far, and just, you know, because I'm one of them. I'm a fucking crazy Mr. Bungle fan. I saw him every tour. Like, you know, it just the whole thing blows my mind.
no, man, I'm in the same boat with you, and especially, you know, there's Mike Patton, and you don't know what he's gonna do, and he's one of the great last Mystique frontmen. You know,
Yes.
you got like Tom Waits, you got Nick Cave, and you have Patton. Those are the guys I look at that are like, what are these guys going to do in their career? You know, oh, you think they're going to come out and do this? Nah, they do that, and you're just like, I always love and need that in a front man.
Oh, it's look, like again, I've been a fan of his. I mean, truly, you know, I like the demos, but then of course he joins Faith No More, and it's just
Oh,
like this guy's the greatest, and then starts making Bungle records and 47 other side projects along the way, and I am unabashedly pretty much a fan of everything he does, and so to get to be a part of his world creatively has been such an amazing experience for me creatively to see how he works, to be on the inside, you know, to be there at rehearsal with him when you're running the songs, and to literally have the fucking conductor, the maestro in the room with you running it, because his ear is so finely tuned to every single little thing, and nothing gets by him. He's like one of those dudes, you know, you hear those stories of Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder or guys that just like they could play everything that's going on in a room, and they know everything, and they fucking one little thing that's like stop, you know, and he's like there was one little thing here, did it or try this, and it's not in a mean or yelling or condescending. It's just in a creative musical way always, because it just Mike is such a pure, it's so pure with him. It all comes down to the music. That's all he gives a fuck about. It's his blood, it's what he breathes. It's all that matters. He doesn't care about anything else that comes after the fact. It's just all about what goes on in that room with whatever he's got going on at that time, whatever band he's working with, nothing else matters. It's just what's going on with the dudes in that room in that moment, and it's so pure, and it's just amazing for me to get to be a part of that. Again, I know I keep saying that, but it's all still new to me.
yeah, yeah. And that is literally the only way you get a peek behind the curtain is to play in a band with Mike Patton. That's the only way you're going to get to know maybe a peek at his process and his, you know, his rehearsal technique, maybe his vocal warm-up style, his tweaking of tunes, all that, you know, because he doesn't have the Instagram or anything like, yep, I took a shit at 3 and then I got a pizza and now I'm
Yeah,
working on a demo. None of that. We don't even know what this
nothing.
guy does until he announces something a week before and does it.
Exactly. He's he's the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
Yeah. exactly. And in this day and age, it's amazing. It's amazing to be around somebody like that who, like, literally in the course of the process of this record and all that, they put up an Instagram for him. He's not doing it.
I know.
It's the same like with the Facebook. It's Ipecac that runs that stuff. But at least, it is an outlet for people to get some type of information when they need to have it. But yeah, he just really does not. He does not care. No matter what comes across his plate, like, well, if you did this, you would mean this much money, or if you did this, it would mean this. He's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit about that. Even the press for this record, I think he's done 3 interviews and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'm doing.
I asked him to do the podcast, face to face. And I knew he was going to say no, but I would have killed myself if I didn't ask him, so I asked him and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And he goes, it's this.
Yeah. And I love that it's like that. And
So do I.
And it will always remain that way. And it's so great that that's the way it is. He's just not available the way other people are available. Everyone's lives take different paths, and I'm like that to a certain extent, but at the same time, I actually really enjoy posting shit on Instagram and doing that. It's something that's it's actually something I enjoy. It's a one-way street. You'll never find me arguing with people on social media.
No.
or any of that kind of crap. The only time I see a comment is if someone I know specifically sends me something that somebody said, good or bad. But I post things and that's it. It's a one-way street, and it's enjoyable for me to do that. And I understand it's also a tool these days that will help your band.
100%.
Bands need all the help they can get, to sell records and sell tickets. So I had no problem embracing social media in the way I want to use it to move that shit forward.
Also, the more independent you can get with these tools of YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, to get away from the machine and eventually become your own thing in a Zappa way or a Metallica way or anything is an amazing tool for you. It's like, okay, I can really kind of like, look, I don't have a manager. I don't got an agent. And here I am 10 years in, and I interviewed AC/DC,
Yeah.
It's just, you just do the work and you're out there. And like you said, you don't need everything out there in the world.
No, you don't need everything. Exactly. And, and just bringing it back to Mike for a second, we had a conversation once years ago. I can't remember. It was in Australia. We were at the Cherry Bar in Melbourne on AC/DC Lane, and we were having drinks. We were on the same festival together. I'm pretty sure it was Faith No More, but I get confused because we were also down there on Soundwave at the same time. Anthrax and Faith No More at the same time, but we were also. I remember being on it when he was there with Tomahawk, I think. So
that was killer.
Which tour it was. But we were at Cherry Bar, and it was like me and Frankie Bello and Mike, and we were in this like back room at the Cherry Bar just drinking whiskey. And I remember having this conversation with him, just like, we got to do something together. We got to do something together. Like, we've known each other too long. One of these days, we always talk music and all this. We got to do something together. And he just kind of smiled at me, and he was like, don't worry, we will. Somewhere along the line, it'll happen. So I reminded him of that, like when he called me last year when we talked about doing this Bungle thing. I was like, do you remember that conversation at Cherry Bar? He's like, no, remind me. I was like, when you said we would work together, he's kind of like, I think so. Like, he didn't remember. But it absolutely happened. Absolutely happened. And I was like, I remember looking at Pearl when he wrote me and he said, like, when he said, do you want to do this? And I said, I must have had a crazed look on my face because she was like, is everything okay? like looked like, she couldn't tell like if someone died or what the fuck was going on. And I was like, Mike Patton just asked me to join Mr. Bungle. Like, just like, what the fuck?
It's funny is you immediately say yes, and then the next day you go, whoa, this is going to be some fucking work. I was talking to you about it and the process of getting your brain wrapped around all these parts. And as we get older, it's tougher to remember a lot of stuff, like if I go on stage and do an hour, I've got to really tune it up, and so you start to do the work. And you were the only one who had been out doing that right hand thing for years. And the other guys, they're not playing speed metal or thrash metal. So they were saying like, and I know it's tough on our bodies. They were saying it was really tough on them to get it up to speed.
Yeah, Trey had mentioned that to me. Trevor too. They're like, we don't stand on stage and play thrash metal for 75 minutes straight. Like, we've never done that. Like maybe back in '85, at like a high school show. But it's like we've never done that. And so as hard as I thought it was, I wasn't even thinking about them in that context. Like all I know is like my right arm was fucking blowing up. Like Jesus Christ. And I never thought about it for them because like when Trey would, we had a couple of days rehearsal here at my house before before we had full band rehearsal. I said, what do you guys think about coming to LA a couple of days early, coming to my house, and we'll do like 2 days of just the three of us, just little small amps, super quiet, so we could really hone in and make sure we're all doing the same thing and we're all playing. I'm playing the parts I'm supposed to be playing, and I'm doing this shit justice. Like I really want to hear from you guys. I really want direction. And so it was like, yeah, the great idea. And we sat here in my dining room with these little amps playing the stuff, and they would say, Trey would be like, God damn it, my arm. I'm like, oh, your arm hurts too? And he's like, yeah, man. And I'm like, oh, I thought, good, it's not just me.
Oh my
And
God.
you're right. And I have been doing it all these years, but at the same time, not to this intensity. These songs are, most of the songs are 6 minutes and longer. The arrangements are insane. The amount of brain energy I'm using to remember the arrangements is like, that takes energy too. So you're burning calories just trying to remember the fucking 90 changes in a song, let alone the intensity and the stamina it's taking because of the fucking speed and the length of the songs and the amount of time you're having to pick without a rest. Like that's different than Anthrax. Anthrax songs are different arrangement wise and speed wise, and it's an intensity level that I had never experienced before, and it did take me months to build up to that level of stamina where I could play it. And even now, having relearned it for this recording, for the pay-per-view thing we're doing, it was again all over. At least I knew the arrangements now. The arrangements are like in my brain, but just it goes away quick, man.
Yeah.
Like that stamina that goes away quick unless you keep doing it and keep doing it.
When you got to the studio, I think I saw a picture. You were using the SOD amp, man, the SOD Marshall. My head popped off. Like, I think the SOD record has probably the second greatest guitar tone of all time to me, besides say like a Masters, or a Eddie Van Halen Fair Warning. But the tone of that amp, that was amazing that you busted that out. Was that the only amp you used in the studio on it?
No, there was more. The secret to the SOD record that I think a lot of people don't realize, and we've talked about it over the years, is that it's this same JCM 800 Marshall, and it's the same TC Electronic booster distortion pedal that I bought in like 82 or 83 at Sam Ash on 48th Street, Manhattan. And same 4x12 cabinet with the 80-watt Celestions that I bought in 1982. But the SOD record, Danny Looker is pretty much playing every single thing I'm doing on guitar, he's playing on bass. So it sounds like a lot of the time Like when you listen to the intro of March of the SOD, bam, 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 that's guitar and bass together. That's so it makes it sound like this
Wow.
insane guitar tone, but that's also Danny's bass in there that's creating that sound, and that's the secret, which we didn't realize at the time. It's not like we were like, oh no, we got this great secret. It's just what we were doing, and then after the fact, we were like, wow, that sounds fucking sick.
Oh,
And so yes, it is. I am using that same Marshall. I brought that Marshall, which that Marshall's on Fistful and Spreading and Among and State of Euphoria and Persistence of Time. It's that amp is on all those records. And then I brought it back on Worship Music, and then again on when we were tracking guitars on Worship Music, I was tracking guitars. Rob Caggiano was producing it, and we talked about it. We're like, we should get my old Marshall out of storage, and I brought it over to Dave Friedman's shop, and he tuned it up for me, and plugged it in, and it sounded exactly the same. It was just like, holy fuck, right? So, and on Worship Music, it was a combination of that with an EVH, and it really just sounded great. It was that Marshall, that same tone from the '80s, combined with a more modern bottom end that I was getting out of the EVH, and it just created this fucking just monster guitar tone. So I used that on Worship Music. I used it on For All Kings, and now again on this Bungle record. It was the combination of the Marshall and the EVH, and it fucking sounds great.
and then which guitar? The new Karina Jackson, or what did you play?
Couple of different ones. It was a combination of, yeah, I used the Karina one on the record, the Karina King V. I used my white one, like the first one they ever sent me, like the King V prototype that they sent me. That white one just sounds incredible. And I think I used, I don't think did I have that slime one yet? I can't remember if I had the Dime Slime one yet. I think I did. Couple of different King V's, and I even had my Rhodes, my Jackson Rhodes from back in the day, which I used on a bunch of overdubs too.
I listened to your Eddie Van Halen tribute on Sirius XM on the Eddie Van Halen channel right now. They're running.
Oh, right
and,
on.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was in the car and it came on. And I just kind of drove around and listened to the whole thing, and you pretty much almost picked the exact songs that I picked on my Eddie Van Halen tribute. And it is so funny to sit around and think how much the deep tracks mean to us.
Oh, yeah.
It's, when you get into Take Your Whiskey Home, Lost Control, Push Comes to Shove, weird shit on those deep tracks. Even on 84, the last two tracks, Girl Gone Bad and House, it's unreal the amount of songwriting this man put out.
There's not a bad song from Van Halen 1 to 1984. For me, there's nothing that I don't love. Like every song for me is as important as the big songs. Every song. My favorite songs are ones that aren't. I love all. I love You Really Got Me. Of course I do. And at the same, but for me, like on the first record, my favorite song is "I'm the One."
Oh God,
that's my favorite song on the first album.
I'm the One, and
even
On
the
Fire.
Even the fucking vaudeville part, like
oh yeah,
like because it's like, what the fuck is this? It was like Mr. Bungle before Mr. Bungle.
yeah.
Like, who the fuck does this?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, every song, every fuck. So, I mean, his solo on "So This Is Love." Oh my God. Like what an insane, like he cleaned the tone up, and just the feeling in that solo and the way he moves around it top Jimmy. Like it just, you could go on and on. Every song is a fucking masterpiece.
It really is. It really is. And, I constantly remind people as they constantly say, Eddie Van Halen, the guitar genius. I said, no. It's Eddie Van Halen, the songwriting genius, because
Yes.
we would not be talking about these solos if they were not in these incredible songs.
He was the complete package in every way. In every way, he was truly. I mean, he was he's the he was the Lennon and McCartney of hard rock. Heavy metal. They were metal before people were saying metal. I'm the One, Romeo Delight, Light Up the Sky. Those are metal tunes.
Yeah.
Atomic Punk. That's fucking metal.
Yeah.
He's the Mozart of he unbelievable songwriter, unbelievable
Unbelievable.
songwriter and arranger, and just overall musician, just the fucking master. And it was just all in here. It was all in there.
Everything about him. It's his amps, his sneakers, the guitars he built, the hair, the look, the shades, the car selection, the studio he built, everything. You're just like, and then what? Oh, whoa. It's just a fucking rabbit hole that will never end. If you dig into an Eddie Van Halen rabbit hole, you are going all over the place.
I think you could argue that he was the greatest overall talent. He was the biggest talent of the last from 1975 on. He, like, to me, there's nobody more talented in any field of entertainment. For me, Eddie Van Halen would be the biggest talent of all. And where does that go? Like, what a void that leaves,
Oh, that's what Howard Stern said that really hit me. He was like, the biggest thing that happens when a genius dies is all of that is gone. We got the music and we got the photos and we got the videos, but the actual man and what he knows in his head and his hands is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I was listening to, I don't know if I read it or I heard it. I was listening to the guy I was listening to something, and the guy made a really good point about the fact that, and I might get this wrong timeline wise, but Eddie, he didn't create any new music between 99 and 07, right?
Right.
Is that the window? So it's just a shame that in those 8 years we didn't get anything, and if it was just a case of he couldn't be bothered because people stopped buying records. So what's the point of even trying to make new music at this point? What was going on in that period between 99 and 07 when they reunited with Dave? It's just a shame that we didn't get anything. It's just like this 8-year period of, just a loss, this loss period. Who knows? Maybe at some point, maybe Wolfie's going to be going through the studio, because I did see something where he said, I'm going to be in there going through stuff, and who knows what we're going to find. So maybe there's a treasure trove of riffs in there, Well, I mean, you got to figure eight years of, like, you got to figure that guy was in the room writing shit.
Oh yeah, and well, the interesting thing too is when they dropped the new record with Roth, the last one, that was all old tunes and stuff that they reworked up. Right. So I'm really interested in hearing the stuff that he was doing late night in there, just tweaking out like fucking keyboards with, maybe he even got into some weird EDM landscapes of weird sounds and everything. I'd like to hear all that kind of stuff because that's in his mind.
Everything. Yeah, everything. I hope we could hear everything. Yeah. Like Prince, you know what I mean? In a way, that guy was always creating. He couldn't not create.
No. Well, it's great to talk to you. I'm very fired up to do this Bungle week. I just feel it's something that needs to be done as far as people listen to my show and each day listen to these guys that you might not know who they are, but they've been out there playing music professionally all their lives, other than Mike, Trevor and Trey. Yeah. And really dig into that, more of that history of that Bay Area something in the water up there, man, that we had that produced all this insane music from Metallica to the Dead to Santana to Journey to Bungle to, everything up there. It's wild.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
When's the pay-per-view on the Halloween?
Halloween. Yeah.
Oh, and the record comes out on the 30th, right?
Yes, the day before. So yeah, spend your you can spend your Halloween with us. And if you already have Halloween plans, of course it will remain available for like 72 hours. So you could watch it on your own schedule. And so go get all your candy or whatever it is you do on Halloween and then sit on the couch and eat and watch Mr. Bungle.
I'm looking forward to watching that. And hope to see you, man, soon.
Yeah, man.
It was great to talk to you. And I always love talking to you because you and I are absolute music lunatics and guitar freaks,
Yes.
which is hilarious, So I could go anywhere with you,
Yep.
Thank you, man. And I'm looking forward to everybody hearing this. So
Right on.
I will see you soon, buddy.
All right. Cheers, Dean. Thanks.
Thank you. See you, Scott.
Bye.
Later.